Hola, ¿qué tal? Los saluda Karina Yapor, reportando de nueva cuenta desde la Conferencia de Conservadores en Washington, D.C., CPAC. Y hoy tenemos el gusto de poder platicar con Chad Wolf. Él es exsecretario de Seguridad Interna bajo la administración del presidente Trump y también director de America First Policy. Y vamos a platicar con él y también me acompaña Alfonso Aguilar, analista político de Voz Media. And thank you so much, sir, for being with us today.
Appreciate it.
And one of the main topics that is being discussed, not only here at CPAC but nationwide, is the crisis that we are facing, the immigration crisis that we're facing at the border. What are your thoughts when you see the Biden administration going, for example, after the state of Texas for trying to protect the border instead of going against the human traffickers and people crossing illegally to this country?
You know, I've got a lot of thoughts. I think the biggest one, though, is, we're 3 years, we're going on our 4th year of this crisis, and the human misery, the human trafficking, the smuggling, the humanitarian crisis. There's not only a security crisis, but there's a humanitarian crisis along that border. And so understanding what all those migrants, the lies they're being sold, and the dangerous journey that they're taking, and the impact it's having on them because of the policies of this administration and what they are actually encouraging in numbers that we've never seen before. I think, from a human level, that really impacts me. And so the work that I'm doing now is trying to educate people. There's a better way to do this. You can look back to the Trump administration. We did some great things there. But there's good examples from previous administrations as well. There are things to do to secure that border. The current approach that we have today is not it. It is the opposite of a secure border. It is the opposite of an orderly process. And I think when people, Hispanics included, and other Americans see that, we're a nation of laws. And when you come in the country and you do things a certain way, you get rewarded for that. And when you don't, and you get rewarded for that behavior as well, I think that's where just a basic sense of fairness comes into play, and a lot of people are really upset about that.
Chad, it's an election year, and unsurprisingly, Biden and the Democrats are trying to rewrite history. You just said it, they created this mess. It started when they arrived. They started undoing all the great common sense policies that the Trump administration had put in place. The wall, the remaining Mexico policy, and they liberalized the asylum rules. Now they're saying the new narrative is that they haven't been able to control the border because they need additional legislation, and it's Republicans who are responsible for the border crisis. That's incredible.
It's so bizarre. The administration has been on this kick now for 3 years of what we call blame shifting. Trying to, they first said it was the root migration causes. It was historical trends, it was weather, it was cyclical, it was Mexico, it was worldwide they've tried everything to cause and to say this is what's at stake here, and this is the causation of what we see today. Look, the first 100 days, and you said it, the first 100 days of this administration back in 21, they issued 94 executive actions on immigration. It was those actions and every action that they've taken since that has caused this crisis. So in a sense, it's a self-inflicted crisis. They caused it. They have the power to change it tomorrow if they want to. There's a long list of authorities that the President and Secretary Mayorkas can use to cause this.
They don't need additional legislation.
No. The most impactful thing they can do is at their fingertips. It's more than any Senate bill could do or any House bill could do. They have the authority. And how do I know this? Is because we used it during the Trump administration, and we used it effectively. Over a period of decades, Congress has given the executive branch a lot of authority when it comes to border security and immigration. You've got to be willing to use it. You've got to be willing to make some tough decisions, enforce border security, drive people to the legal avenues and the legal pathways to come into this country. And only then can we have a national debate about immigration flows and about what's the right visa programs, what's the right level of legal migration. But as long as that border is open and millions of folks can come across illegally.
There's nothing humane or moral about the system. Because he said when he started that he wanted a humane and moral system. This is not moral or humane.
And on the other hand, of course, we all saw what happened on 9/11.
Yeah.
So now that there are folks coming for every country in the world, without the authorities of this country knowing who is crossing the border, are you concerned that another terrorist attack could happen?
Well, I'm certainly concerned about a number of national security threats coming across that border. So I'll give you a couple of numbers, right? what we call known or suspected terrorists. These are individuals that are known to the US government that are on a watch list of some kind. And if you look at 4 years of the Trump administration, we had 16 identified over all 4 years. 3 years into the Biden administration, over 330 have been identified. And so what that tells me is that the bad guys, the bad individuals that want to come here know what the rest of the world knows, which is now is the time to try to do this. Because odds are if you come across that border, you're going to be released into American communities. As long as you're not showing up on a watch list or you try to evade or hide your identity or a number of different things that you can do. So there is a real national security concern. I think if you talk to the Border Patrol agents on the line down in Texas or Arizona or California, wherever, they're concerned about those real, not only national security threat, but a public safety threat, like an MS-13 gang member or whoever else wants to come in. Maybe they don't want to actually do an act of terrorism, but they're here to commit some criminal acts. And I think that's what we need to be concerned about. And that's what those agents, that's why they go to the Border Patrol Academy, is they want to protect bad things and bad people from coming into this country and protect Americans and American citizens and those living here. And they're not given that opportunity to do that today.
Absolutely. And I also would like to ask you, because you are the executive director of America First Policy.
Right. Yep.
What are you guys doing there and why it's so important? I mean, I know it, but for our listeners.
It's really, really important. So it's a great organization. We formed about 2.5 years ago after the Trump administration, and we said, look, the policies of the Trump administration from a prosperity standpoint, from a security standpoint, we're all good. All Americans flourished under those policies. So we've taken those policies into the America First Policy Institute. We have 7 different policy centers working on healthcare policy, national security, border, economics, lower taxes, and how do we move this country forward, showing that there is a better way to govern, there is a better way to take this country than what we see today.
Well, no, absolutely. I think that it's interesting when we look at Hispanics and their views on what's happening in the country, it mirrors what average Americans think. Right. In every single area, economy, migration, crime, they think this administration is doing a terrible job. And I think when they look back during the Trump years, things were going very well for Hispanics, particularly in the economy. In terms of wages, the record in terms of unemployment, but also increase in wages, Hispanic families, the household income going up. So they were doing, historically, they've never had it so well.
Yeah, I think that's right. So, I mean, whether you talk about Biden inflation, whether you talk about, as you said, right, they have less in their pocketbook today. Gas costs more, groceries cost more. They don't have the job and the opportunities that they had. They don't have the security that they had. So all of these, if you're in South Texas or you're in Southern Arizona or you're anywhere else in the country, these are things that matter to you. Can you take your children to playgrounds and have them feel safe? Well, if you're in a major city, probably not, right? And I think they want someone at the federal level, president, to talk to them about this. And I think if you're given a choice on whether former president talked to you about this or the current one, they're going to pick the message of that America First.
So at the end, America First means defending the American dream, because the majority of Hispanics are coming here from Latin America because of the American dream. And as you said, American dream means good opportunities, a good standard of living, and security, a rule of law.
There you go. And that's what America First Policy Institute is about.
Well, Mr. Chad Wolf, thank you so much for being with us today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Y a ustedes, muchísimas gracias por estar al pendiente de todas estas transmisiones a través de Voz Media, en donde tratamos de explicar lo que tiene un impacto directo en nuestras vidas. No se olviden, por favor, de seguirnos a través de todas nuestras redes sociales como @VozMediaUSA.